Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today I am going to be getting into a crypto video, and this is on passive income. Note this is a multiple part video. This particular one is going to be a lot harder than the other ones. It's a little bit more detailed than the other ones in futures, but this one can actually make you quite a bit of money, and I'll explain a little bit why in a bit. So first things first is let's get into what most people call passive income, so we're all on the same page. What a lot of people call passive income, if you take a look at a lot of these lists like this, 20 ways of making passive income, well, I mean, one of the first things is write an ebook. What the fact is unless if you're famous or a president, you're probably not going to, easily do that without extreme luck. So note that. And then things like rental properties, any landlord will tell you that's not really passive at all. There's ways to help, especially if you own a large amounts of land, but most people don't, so you got to be rich. So if it's basically be rich, step one. Like one of these is literally do a vending machine business. Well, who's going to provide the stuff for the vending machines? Who's going to fix them? Who's going to place them out there? Who's going to do all this other stuff? Yeah, that's not passive at all. That's not passive income, or it's not true passive income. There's too much luck that needs to be involved, and a lot of the other stuff, it's not a, hey, set it and leave it and let it run. It's a very much, you got to have your hands on this thing, otherwise things fall apart. So we're going to get into actual passive income. So, again, this is not going to be the easiest ones to deal with, at least this first video. The next few videos are going to be much, much easier. And I want to mention that there is a little bit more risk on doing it. This one, but you can make a ton of money on doing this method, which is why I'm putting this out first, and plus why I am going to take a bit more time than the other ones to explain this particular one, because while there is risk, you actually can make some serious money into it. By the way, all of these things, or most of these things I'll be talking about through these series of videos, is called yield farming. Basically, you're trying to get the maximum amount of returns, the maximum amount of yields for the littlest amount of money. And I'll spend a little bit into that. But basically, if we take a look into this, we can first off provide liquidity. This is an actual type of passive income. So real quick, so we're all on the same page, what is liquidity? Liquidity is basically supply. That's kind of the easiest way to explain it. So with a decentralized exchange, and just like anything else, like even a bank trying to give a loan out, when a bank gives a loan out, that money doesn't just come out of thin air. It has to come out of something. Normally that's people's savings accounts. Now, of course, they can ask the government, but even then, that money doesn't come out of thin air. It has to come out of something that's already going. It has to be a closed market. Otherwise, you're paying $1 billion for a stick of gum or something. To prevent that, you have to have a exact place where this resources is coming from. So with here, and by the way, that's why I get entrance into a savings account, which does apply here to the less supply of money that the banks have in the savings account, the more money you can get through savings accounts. Back in the day, it used to be 5%. In some places, it used to be 8%. They're not worried about having money in people's savings accounts to use that for loans. So that's why it's almost 0 points or 0.01, if I remember right. So last time I had a bank account, almost 10 years ago. It's probably worse now. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if it is. But anyways, as far as that goes, you're still doing the same things here, except for you're able to make a ton bit more, and there's a lot less corruption involved. So when you're actually paid in your savings account in banks, a lot of that money is coming from the actual people paying off their loans. whereas there's a huge chunk of it that's just going to the CEOs and whatnot of the bank. Whereas with decentralized stuff, decentralized finance and decentralized exchanges, the money is mostly going to the actual people who provided the liquidity. Now, there is a portion of it that does go for regular expenses and whatnot, and side things for the decentralized exchange or decentralized finance system. Sometimes this is used to, if someone finds a bug, then it pays them, as a bug bounty program. Or it might be that it really does require someone to help code something and to get them involved. Then it does that. Or it could be something like, hey, let's make a lottery. There's stuff like that can be done to attract people to the exchange or the finance system. And it works, but the majority of your money is going to the actual liquidity providers. So if we're using that bank situation, it'll be the savings account holders. So as far as that goes, when you provide liquidity, when you provide supply, you get something in return. So if you're using a DeFi program, which is decentralized finance, what it normally does is gives out loans. You over-collateralize a loan, but when the individual pays off the loan, the liquidity provider gets a good bit of that money. Whereas with decentralized exchanges, trading and whatnot, when a trade happens, as we can see here, we get an actual fee. And depending on the supply and whatnot, the actual fee can massively change. It can be extremely cheap or it can be extremely expensive. So note that it's seriously not a one-to-one on that. It's not something you'll see on a centralized exchange where everything has a same base fee. On a decentralized exchange, you're paying more or less because of supply and demand. And that also means that you're getting more or less depending on what you're providing and how much supply is there and how much demand there is there. So for example, with here, if we put BUSD and OLE, then we can expect a APR of 45.31%. And you can actually top that off with doing a staking program on top of that. Let's see if we can find it right here, of 158.44%. And if you compound that on like a daily, so let's say we're doing $100 worth, then what we can be expecting is, let's see if we get the, what was it? Yeah, it does include that. Sorry about that. So with that, all that said, you're looking at about a 221.18 per year, and for 5 years, a 34,000, basically whatever dollars. Keep in mind, this is with the current prices of cake, which is at about $4, so it's like $3.94. So this means that within that 5 years, chances are is that will increase. So let's run that again. Again, you're literally just using $100, throwing it down, waiting 5 years, and just waiting it out, and you're getting whatever amount. And let's times this by 5. Let's just say that it increased by, from $3.98 to $5. Then you're looking at that. Let's just say hypothetically it's up to $10 by that time. 5 years out, probably not $10, but it's up there definitely. You're still looking at 86,000 right there. So basically, you can make a huge chunk of money just by doing this. So it's not a joke. Now, there is a big risk into it, and note that these numbers change all the time. Again, it's based on supply and demand. even if you put this out today, you're all good. If tomorrow everybody in the world rushes in and supplies this liquidity, then the amount of returns that you can get will dramatically lower, and this also dramatically influences the staking part of it on the liquidity token. So note that this is not a set in stone number, and same thing like with prices and whatnot. It's not a set in stone number, and this does change once in a while. But if you're using something like BNB and Cake, for example, BNB is Binance's coin. It's fairly easy to get. It's widely used. Cake is this exchange's coin. What a fact is you might get less, but it is a bit more stable, and you know what it is. It might lower from 0.7 to 0.5, but it's not a dramatic difference from like a 45% to 2%, which is highly realistic with the other, if there's enough supply to go through. So note that, and note that you need to keep in mind what you're getting into. Now, another thing that you got to keep in mind is also when you provide the liquidity, it is in base pairs. When you provide it, the dollar value has to equal. So, for example, let's say hypothetically I have $10 of Cake. At least in PancakeSwap, it works like this. I've never seen it work any other way on anything else I've used. Not saying it doesn't happen out there, but you have to do a 1-to-1. And what this means is, even though I got $158 worth of BNB, I can only, if I had $10 of Cake, that means I can only provide $10 of BNB. That's it. No matter how many coins I got, how few coins or whatever, it's based on the dollar amount. And it tries to keep it that way as much as possible out through. Now, real quick, until you sell the actual liquidity pool token to convert it back to its original BNB and Cake, assuming that that's what you want to do. Keep in mind, you can literally exchange that token for another coin if you really want, because it will have an actual dollar value. So that's fairly easy to actually do. But let's assume that you want to bring it back. You want to keep it all in, and you want to bring it back, get your Cake, get your BNB back. Well, the fact is you got possible loss to deal with, and this loss is not like your normal loss. So again, if we started with $5, per token each, in the price in the future, one coin goes nuts, $10, and the other stays the same. Basically, you're looking at a potential value loss compared to nothing happened, and you're looking at about one coin, the $10 one, 70 coins. The other one is 141 coins, whereas before both of them were doing 100. Reason why is it wants to keep the price as equal as possible. So note that even if it goes up, you can have problems, and then if it goes down, let's just say for example it goes way down, same thing goes. Basically, you lose out on value, but you also lose out on the actual coins itself. It will adjust this and try to keep it as much as possible equal for the dollar value. This is just how it works. If you want me to get deeper into this part of it, then let me know in the comment section. This can get very, very, very deep, and I just wanted to gloss over into what you need to know as someone who's doing passive income versus all the technicals. But if you want to know the technicals, I have no problem getting into them. So just note that you have a potential for this type of loss. Now, it should be noted that on some exchanges, you have insurance on it. You need to look at the policy that's provided. So I think Thor's Coins Exchange, I forgot what it's called off the top of my head, but I think it has some type of insurance. Not many exchanges does this yet. I see it as something that's going to happen more and more in the future. At least if you're looking at policy, it might say, well, it covers these base pairs and none of these others. And what that tells you is it believes that the base pairs are so similar as far as their movements that the gap is going to be so small that it will be able to easily be covered by any insurance that it has. It notes that with a decentralized finance and decentralized exchange or anything else that's decentralized, for the most part, you're looking at a company that's ran by software top to bottom. Maybe do a little bit of whatever, but for the most part, it's software that you're interacting with. So it means that it has to be programmed right. And if you know how to read code and all the other, then great. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about them screwing you because it's software. So as far as that goes, just keep that in mind when you're dealing with that, and keep in mind that you need to note the policies and stuff like that if you're dealing with the insurance. And the reason for the policies is less oh, you're going to call up Joe Blow and say, hey, can you pay out the insurance? It is more of, this is how we've written the software and what it covers and what it doesn't cover. It might say it might cover up to X amount. Or it might say it covers these base pairs, and anything that's not on that list, it won't cover. So that's a big thing to know. It's just basically saying what the software does and doesn't do. Simple as that. So as far as that goes, again, real quick, sum it up. When someone trades, the fee they pay, it comes out here and it pays you as the holder. And you got to have equal amounts, and I highly advise you to take a look at this. Now, one thing to note is if you add this on top of the actual staking function for LP tokens, by the way, when you do this, you get what's called a liquidity pool token, or LP token, and this just basically represents how much of this that you did. So for the most part, if you use that, a lot of places will allow you to stake the LP tokens. The reason why that you would want to do that is more than less that you can actually use that to say, hey, I'm not going to get rid of this, so reward me. And a lot of time it will give you a reward in something else. So say for example right here, if we want to do a base pair of BSUD and BNB, then you really value cake. You really don't care about one of these or both of these. They might go under, you might have S-Fun or whatever, I don't know some of these coins, but it might go under or whatever it may be, and you'll be okay if it's even a rug pull, because what you're really after is cake. This is what some people do, and you need to take a look at the APR on some of the stuff, and what you can find is some of it actually pays out a decent amount. Like, you're probably going, at the end of the day, going to lose money on this, but based on that, you're going to make more than enough that covers any loss there, and then 20 times more on anything else. Again, I'm not saying that to badmouth any of those coins. I hadn't done research on these particular coins. I'm just saying that that does happen. And notes that you also have things on some of these places that are multipliers. A multiplier, as you can see here, is basically how much more you will get. So for example, on here it says a 1x multiplier is when a cake is made per block, you get 1 cake. In this case, it's 40x, which means you get 40 cake per block just by holding that. It's 40x. So note that you also have things like that that massively help out into that. Now, one big thing I want to mention, because we've been getting to dollar values of a lot of stuff, is notes that you need to look at the actual this amount, the LP token amount versus the dollar amount, and what you can see is how much you'll be getting, because again, the prices of things they change over time. But with something like this, you can take a look and see, well, if I hold 1.38 of this LP token, then in a year's time with compounding and everything, I should be able to get 5.28 or 218 cake in return, or 20% return APR. So it tells you quite a bit right there on what you can get from it on top of what you regularly get. Now, one thing I want to mention is on some of these, you have staking, regular staking, and what this does is say, hey, I'm not going to, do anything with this coin. I'm keeping it, and even you can lock it in place. So like in this case, it's up to 1 year. So what you can see is like, okay, 1 year of this, let's say 100, and then you get about 67.5% in return. But again, note that it's not based on the dollar value. It's based on the actual cake value, the coin value, how many coins you have. So it's always going to give that, and this might, by the time that this is said and done, it might be 3 times more the prize, or it might be a half of the prize. But the fact is this won't change, but this will and could. So note that. I didn't know I can change that. But anyways, as far as that goes, once you have it set up, it's fairly easy to deal with. A lot of these things even have some type of auto compounding effect. So as you get actual profits, it will throw it back in and it will compound it. And note, some of these will not actually show that. You're going to get a third-party calculator. Like right here, it doesn't show any compounding effect as far as I can tell. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, it doesn't show any compounding effect. So note that basically, let's say I got $100. I just want to throw it in there. I'm fine if it's sitting there for a year, fine sitting there for eternity. Basically, I could throw auto compounding on it, and it will just keep doing its thing, keep compounding. I don't have to worry about it. Might come back next year, to check on it to see if it needs me to bump it or whatever for another year or whatever. But other than that, it's, throw it in there, walk away, don't worry about it. How much more passive can you get than that? So anyways, as far as that goes, if you got any questions, whatnot, then leave that in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next video. Hope you have a great day.